Welcome, listeners, to the Ducatelli podcast. This is Anna, your host, and this episode will be recorded in English and Italian for your listening pleasure. This episode is interesting because I had plans to talk to you about women of our past in history, women who were famed throughout history for turning the dial and making a change, about the suffragettes and Mother Cabrini, and even Catherine of Siena. But I must tell you that after having done the research that I did, I came to analyzing that the choice that I had to make had to be one that represented what was more current, what is present in our culture today, and representative of the final changes that we have to make in our society as far as representing women's rights. Allora vi dico che in preparazione per questo episodio volevo presentarvi gruppi di persone, di donne come i suffragettes degli Stati Uniti che lottavano per il voto, che volevo parlarvi di Mother Cabrini, italo-americana diventata santa. Anche ho considerato Saint Catherine di Siena, Santa Caterina, e però ho deciso, dopo facendo tanta ricerca, che volevo presentarvi qualcosa più attuale. Ci vuole armonia nella nostra cultura, nella nostra società a livello mondiale, e ci sono delle poche cose che si sentono e non si sentono, si ascoltano, però they are undiscernible, perché siamo evoluti in un certo modo che non li sentiamo più. E quindi ho deciso di parlarvi di Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, che rappresenta lo Stato di New York come Congresswoman del 14º District o distretto, di Bronx e del Queens, New York. I have decided to present you Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York's 14th District. She represents the Bronx and Queens. I'm choosing to use this conversation, this moment, to express what she said on the House floor, which was absolutely exemplary of the subtleties in conversation that take place, even amongst simply co-workers, as this is her response to former Representative Ted Yoho from Florida. I'm not taking political position, nor does this podcast take political position. Merely, I am here wanting to share with you what was said by her in her response, because the importance of what was communicated with grace, respect, and gentility should be that which shines. Because as women today, we also need to have the skill set to be able to respond in such a way. And these are things, my listeners and dear friends, don't get taught to us in school. As adults, men and women today, in culture, in societies throughout the world, should listen, because we, by making this shift, as subtle as it may sound, can change the world to be a better place by raising sons and daughters, or influencing the children of today to make a better world tomorrow. Noi qui al Ducatelli Podcast non prendiamo posizioni politiche, vogliamo solo comunicare l'importanza della risposta che ha fatto Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sul floor del House a Washington DC come risposta a quello che gli è stato detto da un collega, rappresentante che non lo è più, Ted Yoho della Florida.
Representative Yoho decided to come to the floor of the House of Representatives and make excuses for his behavior. And that I could not let go. I could not allow my nieces. I could not allow the little girls that I go home to. I could not allow victims of verbal abuse and worse to see that excuse, and to see our Congress accept it as legitimate and accept it as an apology, and to accept silence as a form of acceptance. I could not allow that to stand, which is why I'm rising today to raise this point of personal privilege. And I do not need Representative Yoho to apologize to me. Clearly, he does not want to. Clearly, when given the opportunity, he will not. And I will not stay up late at night waiting for an apology from a man who has no remorse over calling women and using abusive language towards women. But what I do have issue with is using women, our wives and daughters, as shields and excuses for poor behavior. Mr. Yoho mentioned that he has a wife and 2 daughters. I am 2 years younger than Mr. Yoho's youngest daughter. I am someone's daughter too. My father, thankfully, is not alive to see how Mr. Yoho treated his daughter. My mother got to see Mr. Yoho's disrespect on the floor of this house towards me on television. And I am here because I have to show my parents that I am their daughter and that they did not raise me to accept abuse from men. Now, what I am here to say is that this harm that Mr. Yoho tried to levy against me was not just an incident directed at me. But when you do that to any woman, what Mr. Yoho did was give permission to other men to do that to his daughters. In using that language in front of the press, he gave permission to use that language against his wife, his daughters, women in his community. And I am here to stand up to say that is not acceptable. I do not care what your views are. It does not matter how much I disagree or how much it incenses me or how much I feel that people are dehumanizing others. I will not do that myself. I will not allow people to change and create hatred in our hearts. And so what I believe is that having a daughter does not make a man decent. Having a wife does not make a decent man. Treating people with dignity and respect makes a decent man. And when a decent man messes up, as we all are bound to do, he tries his best and does apologize. Not to save face, not to win a vote. He apologizes genuinely to repair and acknowledge the harm done so that we can all move on. Lastly, what I want to express to Mr. Yoho is gratitude. I want to thank him for showing the world that you can be a powerful man and accost women. You can have daughters and accost women without remorse. You can be married and accost women. You can take photos and project an image to the world of being a family man and accost women without remorse and with a sense of impunity. It happens every day in this country. It happened here on the steps of our nation's capital. It happens when individuals who hold the highest office in this land admit to hurting women and using this language against all of us. But once again, I thank my colleagues for joining us today. I will reserve the hour of my time, and I will yield to my colleague, Representative Jayapal of Washington. Thank you.
Yoho ha deciso di venire lì al Congresso a fare le scuse per il suo comportamento, di non chiedere perdono, ma effettivamente solo a fare una scusa. E che questo lei non la poteva lasciare andare, perché poi consentiva sia ai suoi nipoti, anche le bambine, le ragazze che che lei rappresenta le famiglie nel distretto che rappresenta, anche le vittime di abusi verbali e peggio, che una scusa viene accettato al Congresso degli Stati Uniti e che accettarlo è legittimo, accettarlo come scuse ed accettare il silenzio come forma di accettazione non ha potuto consentire a fare così. E questo è il motivo che vi ha portato oggi, quel giorno, davanti al Congresso a sollevare questo punto di privilegio personale e che non cerca perdono dal rappresentante Yoho. Chiaramente non lo vuole fare usando linguaggio offensivo verso le donne e anche usando le donne, le nostre mogli, figlie, diciamo, come scudi per le scuse per cattivo comportamento. E quindi questo ha voluto esprimere, e che il mancanza di rispetto del rappresentante Yoho anche lì al Congresso verso di lei in televisione è stato una mancanza di rispetto, e quindi lei voleva prendersi anche la sua responsabilità verso i suoi genitori per fargli vedere che non si accetta l'abuso da parte degli uomini. Ripete che lei ha voluto fare questo, di alzarsi a dire queste cose per la sincerità verso altri, e che noi in essenza dobbiamo cogliere l'occasione di migliorare anche quello che ci circonda a noi, del nostro modo di comportamento, di adulti, di genitori, delle nostre comunità, che rappresentiamo il futuro, che lavoriamo verso il futuro di un modo migliore. I am of the opinion that not only do we have a civic responsibility to our young men and women, whether parents or adults, in our communities or in our countries, that we have this greater responsibility to improve the world and make it a better place. Thank you, listeners. Our objective is to reach people across all cultures and to improve the quality of our lives in harmony with the planet for generations to come. Join us in our mission to reach 1 million followers. Click follow the Ducarelli podcast from the platform from which you listen. Cari ascoltatori, vi ringrazio per la vostra attenzione. Il nostro obiettivo è raggiungere persone di ogni cultura al fine di migliorare la qualità della vita in armonia con quella del pianeta e delle future generazioni. Unitevi alla nostra missione di raggiungere 1 milione di follower. Vi chiedo di cliccare su Segui The Ducarelli Podcast sulla piattaforma da cui state ascoltando. Alla prossima!